project for us, and Marie and Missoula have got a little bit more going on. So I'll do kind of a quick intro and kick it over to her. So let's see if I can get this working. That's up on screen right now.
Yep, we can see your presentation. There you go.
Okay, so we're looking at a area of town that we're calling the Midtown District, running off of I-90 and connecting through to Main Street. This area has its own special funding. It's a tax increment district. And really, a bit of history was before the interstates came through, everything was pretty honky-dory there. You had street trees, you had local businesses doing well. And when I-90 came along, it really became a focus on just moving cars through the area, getting off the highway and hitting Main Street as quickly as possible. And so now we're looking at a revisit on how to make that area more pedestrian friendly, more user friendly, and really just having people living and shopping within the district. And a little disclaimer, I take no credit for the forestry division here in this project. We did a little bit of consulting on some of the tree species and spacing, but this is an economic development project with the city department and this specific district here. Just a quick snapshot showing some other urban renewal districts with specific financing and a bigger shot of town, but we're talking about this golden orange yellow section running along North 7th there. And so some of the elements on why did this project come into play, it's really a focus on people more so than cars. We want people to hang around and enjoy the area and not just be driving through. Moving new buildings and renovations to the edge of the sidewalk instead of a parking lot. New streetlights, new sidewalks, benches, and the landscaping part. So when we get into that, there's a push to try something new. There's a lot of paved surfaces right now, and it's a stormwater issue, it's a landscaping issue, and we just don't have a lot of growing space for trees and other plants. So the idea was to have space for the landscape component working well with other infrastructure. And the two main ideas that came up were the structural cells and permeable pavers. This is an example of what it looks like now. Again, you have some areas lacking sidewalks and just a lot of paved surfaces. You don't have any landscaping in this section. So the structural cells, I'm using that as sort of a generic term. With our project, we ended up with the Stratovault product from City Green, but there are other brands out there. And basically what you're dealing with is like a Lego block system, essentially. You've got a load-bearing substrate that you're not compacting the soil so much to support your typical sidewalks and driveways. And you're also allowing space for underground utilities. It's an area for stormwater retention, and the tree's roots have more space to grow. And the permeable pavers were really just a clean, modern look versus traditional sidewalk. And again, less substrate to put underneath than a traditional sidewalk. And we have a reinforcement of that stormwater concept. We can catch more runoff. Here's an example of some of the Stratovaults going in 2018. You can see a utility line running straight through the area. On the picture on the left, you can see a space cut out for a tree well. And then here's an example of sort of a finished stretch 2 new trees. We have a structural cell under that whole stretch, and then permeable pavers on top. So all this is quite a bit of expense, but this type of infrastructure is touted as the cutting edge of green infrastructure. So there's a lot of optimism. We're hoping to hit a lot of sustainability goals. The cells are made out of recycled plastic. Again, we have a stormwater sink and a vastly improved site for tree growth. But this is our first project. I'd say the jury's still out and the project's not even complete. So many departments are doubtful or at least concerned with some of those maintenance issues that the system as a whole will deal with in the future. Speaking on some of that maintenance, we did have some easy solutions. The whole stretch of North 7th there is a state highway with MDOT, and they were really resistant to any of this project getting off the ground. And the answer was to just take a written agreement and have the city of Bozeman accept all the maintenance responsibilities, signed agreements and negotiations on what infrastructure was going to go where. So for the forestry division, we would take on the maintenance of the trees in the area, just like we would in any standard park and boulevard. We did consult on species selection and spacing and put in a variety, tough urban trees that would help us gauge the success of using this infrastructure. So honey locusts, hackberries, oaks, mountain ash, and Amur chokecherry are the main species in there right now. And then we're also on the hook for pruning, for structure and vision clearance, and we'll tackle removals if necessary. So the project is in the middle of completion right now. We had an initial phase in 2018. Contractors are working on the bulk of it right now and could be completing this year, depending on weather here. Cells and pavers are in on both sides. We have new sidewalks. There's a permeable median with landscaping. There's new ADA ramps and improved pedestrian access and crossings. And since I've come in, started here in 2017, the whole area has been revamped quite a bit. We have a renovated hotel, a concert venue, new apartments coming in, and the nearby park is seeing a lot of improvements too. And yeah, that's really all I've got there. Just kind of a quick little recap. So I think maybe we could save questions for the end, and I just kick it over to Marie.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks,
Good.
Alex. That's awesome. Let's see, I'll try to share my screen here. Okay, can you guys see that okay?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Alex. That was awesome. It's so exciting to see another city in Montana doing the suspended pavement systems and also the permeable pavers. I'm excited to see how those go. So City of Missoula, we've been doing some structural cells for quite a while. It really started in 2015 with the Missoula Art Park. This is a historic section of Missoula's downtown. It's right at the intersection of North Patty and East Pine. And this area was where the first Norway maples were brought in by Francis Warden. So we chose, we got a DNRC grant for this whole project, and it was in coordination with Missoula Art Park and Trees for Missoula and the City Forestry Division. And then we did a year of basically project development and design. And this is the project. These pictures were actually taken this summer. And so you can see the tree with the suspended pavement system there on the left, in the center, the side by side, and then the tree on the right there is just it was planted in a classic planter bed. These are Pacific Sunset maples. They were chosen because they will, when they're mature, they will have a similar form and function as the Norways, kind of keeping with that historic tradition. Also, our SHPO officer was pretty excited about these. So you can really see the tree there on the left has a very balanced crown, very deep green, very healthy looking. Its caliper, when we measured it, we measured at DBH, and this is just over 4 inches, where the tree on the right there is actually right about 2 3/4 inches. So, I mean, it's substantially bigger. The only difference between these two trees is the soil. They are the same species from the same nursery, planted by the same labor staff, same soils, everything is identical, planted on the same day. So this is kind of our test plot showing the advantages. So, and here's Jamie Kirby showing the real difference. So that's just 1 year's growth on that Pacific Sunset maple that's in the suspended pavement system. So how do we convince the engineers and the developers to use these suspended pavement systems? I mean, we all know they're not cheap, but they do pay for themselves in the long run by the benefits of having those very healthy, mature trees. So what we do is we work in coordination with Public Works. We actually, through a lot of meetings and a lot of discussion, we got our engineering team to be on the same page with us. And so if a developer comes in and they decide they want to work in our downtown core and our ultra urban environment, so areas where we don't have the ability to do boulevards or curbside sidewalk with a right-of-way strip behind it, then we're looking at, you know, these soil volumes with a suspended pavement system. So if they have a development that triggers any of those kind of right-of-way improvements, that's where we end up with the installation of these. So I don't know if you are all familiar with Missoula, but there's a section of Higgins where the old mercantile building was, and that is now, that was really our first push for the Silvacells. That project, they've installed 7. And actually all of Higgins, all of Front is one contiguous Silvacell underneath that sidewalk and part of the road base actually. So we have class 3 trees planted in there. So they have gotten to the, 950 cubic square feet of soil volumes in all of those Silvacells. The other way that we've worked out, basically encouraging developers to install these is we now have a stormwater district. So this district is actually a utility that everyone pays into. And so if a building has a lot of runoff, if they're running that water off into a Silvacell and into green infrastructure, they actually get a credit. So it's about working with all of our different divisions across the city to make this work. Here's actually one of the Silvacells going in front of the new building just north of the Mercantile. This is on Higgins. This is in our most developed section of downtown and also historic district. So that's the first layer of those Silvacells going in. You can see the tubes that have been anchored, and then they're kind of, like Alex said, just Lego blocking these suckers together. And then this is an image of them actually backfilling with the soil medium. So limitations, there's definitely, that since this is new, this is like the cutting edge of our green infrastructure. We've definitely found some issues. no solution is perfect. They all have their different situations, but one we found is checking the brand. So, it's like we say Silvacells, it's kind of like Kleenex, we use it interchangeably with the suspended pavement systems, but in actuality, we need to be making sure that we're installing things per the specifications of that product. And then also cost. It's definitely, it's hard for us to say, you have to invest, several thousands of dollars on top of your construction to put in these things. But the benefits outweigh it when we show them, you can have these large mature trees, you have the stormwater reductions, there's ways around that too. And then seasonal installation. I mean, Montana's not, we have a couple seasons, we have construction and we have winter. So we can't always install these things. And then utilities. Utilities can actually reduce the soil volume area. So that's just, something working out in the engineering and the design process. And then most importantly, the limitation is tree selection. We want to make sure you're still putting the right tree in the right place. So right tree for the right soil volumes. We couldn't have done this alone. This is definitely a collaboration between all the different divisions and departments working together, breaking out of our silos, and actually making sure that we're fulfilling all of our master planning processes and design processes. The DNRC has been amazing in helping us get grants and get funding and actually doing those matches to make these projects happen. Same with Climate Smart Missoula and the Missoula Redevelopment Agency. And then of course, Trees for Missoula, they're our 501c3. They actually are our tree advocates. These are the folks that go to city council and speak up for the urban forest. And more specifically, the infrastructure that our urban forest needs.